Ritual and Remedy RX. Drum of the earth, breath of the body, spirit awakening with Dr. Janelle Clayton. Medicine flows through bone and breath, through rules and rhythm. Remember your body, remember your medicine, remember who you are. Ritual and Remedy RX, where healing becomes ceremony.
All right, welcome back to Ritual and Remedy Podcast. This is a podcast where we explore the practices, people, and possibilities that help us release what no longer serves us, restore what truly matters, and radiate from within. I'm your host, Dr. Janelle, wellness advocate, psychedelic integration practitioner, and founder of Ritual and Remedy. Today, we're diving into a conversation that is powerful, nuanced, and deeply needed. This is our guest, Sura Hertzberg. Sura is a licensed therapist, relationship expert, psychedelic integration coach, and founder of Sex and Psychedelics. Her work lives in the intersection of intimacy, embodiment, sexuality, relationships, and expanded states of consciousness. Welcome, Sura.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So we met at the Drakrina conference, and you have this wonderful magazine. I got to find out so many other amazing things about you and your work. So how did you get started in this type of niche area?
Yeah, so I like to always trail back to the beginning of my relationship with psychedelics, which came kind of around the same time as the beginning of my relationship with sex and sexuality, although maybe that began at the beginning of time. But when I was a teenager living in Portland, Oregon, mushrooms kind of grew wild. And it was a time when there was a lot of psychedelic exploration, LSD and MDMA. And there was a lot of kind of openness to expanding your consciousness. And these two playing fields sort of became open to me at the same time, sexuality and psychedelics. And, through a lot of experimentation, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, I found myself kind of integrating these two pieces of the puzzle together. And through my undergrad and my kind of academic work, my grad school, sexuality and psychedelics were always two academic focuses of mine. As I was mentioning, they were always two personal focuses of mine. And when I started doing intimacy coaching, I realized that, bringing in psychedelic integration work, a lot of couples I was working with or individuals I was working with were exploring psychedelics in their own time. And so having knowledge of this and speaking to this intersection is something that I realized was kind of gave me a leg up, or like a field or a place where I could live that felt really comforting and familiar. In 2022, I was applying for a grant, which we didn't get, but it inspired the idea of creating a magazine and an organization where we brought community together to talk about and think about and read about and explore in other ways this intersection of sexuality and psychedelics. And now in my work as a licensed marriage and family therapist, I have been able to bring a lot of these worlds together as well. So that's a little bit about kind of what inspired me and where I came from with this. The magazine's we're about to work on our 4th issue. And so the last couple of years, we've been, bringing together all these different voices that are speaking in myriad ways, creating art and research and short form essays on the intersection of sexuality and psychedelics, which I'll speak more to, but I think I'll pause for a sec.
Amazing, and such a great way to introduce people to your work and what you're doing. So much of psychedelics is about like finding yourself and going deeper and really embodying, and then so much of sexuality is also that. And so I can imagine in your practice, if no matter how people are coming in to work with you, it seems like people are craving like that connection to their selves and also to their partners in the work you're doing. Um, what would you say? How do you explain to someone, um, maybe their partner's having these deep, internal changes, and they're not? Maybe one's on psychedelics,
Mm.
another one isn't, and it's a little bit taboo. How do you start that conversation, like in a therapeutic sense? And what does that look like for our listeners?
Mm. Yeah, well, I want to speak to one thing that I was hearing you say that I like to bring into this work a lot, which is there's the relationship with the self, there's the relationship with other or others, and then there's the relationship with like spirit or the transcendent or something that's like greater than us. And I think oftentimes when we're thinking about sex and psychedelics, people's sort of inroads are like, oh, you mean like fucking on drugs, like having sex with a partner on drugs. And that's definitely an aspect of this, and a fun and exciting and scary and all sorts of things aspect of this, which again, I'd love to speak more on. But also, you know, the 4th issue is around the body, and one of our one of our goals or orientations with the magazine in general is thinking about how the body is psychedelic and has sort of psychedelic processes regardless of ingesting medicine um, or engaging with substances. um, Hormones are psychedelic. Trauma, for better or worse, can be a very psychedelic experience. um, Birth, death, near death experiences, chronic illness, and not to mention sex and eroticism and, pleasure, joy, connecting with nature. So, the idea of sex and psychedelics for us is expanding past this kind of substances and, you know, penetrative sex kind of model. Um, just naming that as well. So, but going back to your question, um, I think that there's a real opportunity, which is something that I've supported couples or directed couples in working with, in partners doing the work with one another and not even necessarily bringing into the room a psychotherapist or a guide. And, I think guided work is wonderful. I think having psychotherapists support psychedelic journeying is incredible in all sorts of ways. And also, it's not the only model. And so the possibility of partners sitting for one another, and kind of speaking to what I was hearing you say earlier, like one person ingesting medicine and the other person not ingesting medicine. One person basically sitting for the other in an expanded state, um, and witnessing them and supporting them and guiding them, I think can be such a different and nuanced experience for partners. And I highly recommend it. And it also can be challenging. And sometimes the challenge is like speaking to what you were saying also, that one person is like, wait, I'm not getting off, I'm not, feeling the medicine, or I'm not, or the drugs or the psychedelics, like I'm not aroused in the same way. And you know having clear, like, holding containers. And I sometimes feel like we overuse all sorts of words. And so, boundaries is one of these words, but having expectations and agreements and understandings generally, and more specifically about like what is and isn't, what might or might not happen, and what is and isn't okay with the person um who's who's ingested substances. I think all of these are ways to mitigate some of the experiences of confusion or jealousy, or kind of like missing each other.
Love that. I want to go back to something you mentioned at the start, which is so important, and it completely slipped my mind as well. But the relationship with yourself and your own sexuality, and that being a foundational piece, both for the psychedelic work and for intimacy work. Um, what would you say to someone that is exploring those areas and wants to go, deeper?
Mm. Well, I would say first and foremost, like doing your own work and exploration, whether that's psychically working with a therapist, or um, a guide or a coach, or whomever, like, or community, um, understanding your own psyche, and without substances, really like doing some processing to understand who you are, and how you work, and kind of where your places of stuckness are. And then, you know in addition to that, like doing your own somatic exploration, understanding your body and your arousal, your own relationship with eroticism, with sexuality, with sex. And then, going slow and intentionally, and combining these in your own, like on your own and in your own space, can be a way to have an access point to your own understanding that's intentional, and that comes from, sort of a place of like, okay, diving into like, what is it that I like and I want? If I'm expanding my horizons, or my consciousness, or like moving into an altered state a little bit, and exploring my body a little bit, what is it that feels good? And starting like with the self, like understanding your own sense of pleasure, understanding your own desire, um, like that's enough. That's such a
Yeah.
great place to. I was like even thinking just now, like, oh, it's a good starting place, and then you can bring in another human or a non-human. And all of those things are true, but also I wanted to stop myself and just remind myself, and all of us, that that's that's so much.
Mm.
In the sort of pleasure activist sense, understanding your own erotic drive and understanding your own relationship with pleasure, like, does change the world, and can expand past you, um and sort of ripple out into like all your relations, in the
Mm.
sort of mindfulness meditation space. um Sometimes we say that, and I believe that deeply with pleasure and personal eroticism.
Amazing. I love the way you describe that.
Hmm.
Um, one of the things that people ask a lot in general, or just comes up in body work and work where we're starting with the physical first, like work like you're doing as well. There's kind of this taboo of like it having to be hard, and like sex is very pleasurable most of the time. Psychedelics are pleasurable, and so people can kind of feel like, I don't want to say guilty, but guilt and shame can come up because sometimes these very sensual ways of healing or of expanding feel kind of taboo or wrong. Um, but can be so powerful and sometimes like easy, the path of pleasure, right, is awakening. What do you have to say about that?
I mean, like when you think about it in these terms, like meditation or mindfulness, like sitting still and alone, or like closing your eyes and tuning in, like ought to be the easiest thing in the world. But we all know how hard it can be to allow yourself to really rest or to really expand in being in the present moment and fully engaging um with embodiment and uh presence and showing up. And so I guess there is some level of ease for sure. I think that we need ease in our revolutionary practices, or else how would we get people to come along with us? And yet I think that I disagree that, like, you know, the kind of sex that can be so life changing and life bringing is necessarily easy. I think like meditation or like dance or somatic practices, like it is a practice. It is showing up for it. It is continually doing a certain level of intentionality and work that um, is actually not just easy.
Yeah, that's true.
And I want to just add with psychedelics, I think I was focusing a lot on the sexuality in my mind just now, but psychedelics are similarly like, when you put it like this, you take some fungi and lie down with an eye shade for 5 hours, and then you take the eye shade off and you listen to some music. Like, it can sound like such a simple practice, but I remember kind of early in my in the like in the last couple of years, when there's been like a lot more sort of mainstream research on psychedelics that people are accessing more regularly. um, I had a patient come to me and be like, I had no idea that mushrooms were going to be scary and intense and overwhelming. Like, what I knew was that you take mushrooms and then you're healed. And nobody told me that
Thing.
you have to go through the journey.
Yeah.
And they'd had a terrible trip, like a really, really overwhelming and scary experience. And it it reminds me of why the medical model of psychedelics is can be really confusing for people and really kind of um yeah, it's not necessarily the right avenue. And um part of that is because people are familiar with prescription drugs where they
Yeah.
take something and then they feel better, or
Yeah.
the bad or the psychological aspects of it are mitigated.
Even just the idea of like the body being having an intelligence, and so when we're working through challenges, or even like when you get a fever or you have symptoms, that's actually a sign that you're alive and healthy, right? It's not something we
Mm,
want to shut down. And so yeah, that's a really great point that you bring up. Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that aspect of it too. And I'm sure that shows up in your work also, where people come in and they're like, there's something wrong with me. And you're like, yeah, like that's your body like directing you towards the place where it needs attention.
Definitely. And working in alternative spaces where you're not like, putting a nail to hammer for every single thing, where there's these layers, there's like the physical and spiritual, emotional, layers of the body, and the body does what it wants to do, right? Like we can't speed it up, and um everyone, everything's at its own quantum pace, and then the physical pace as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a phrase that I've heard other colleagues use of like, you don't want to overpromise and deliver when it comes to um alternative and natural type of services, because a lot of stuff does come up where you don't feel that great. Like you said, it's kind of like it is work. It's worth it, but it can be very confronting, and you can kind of have these dips where you are struggling or you don't feel that great, but you are healing. And that can be something that even I forget because I've kind of been in this space for so long. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just a little healing crisis, or
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
just
That's
a
just the
little
medicine at work.
just a little intense journey into the shadow. But
Totally.
thank you for
Totally.
bringing up that point, because again, it is psychedelics are such a new avenue, and so people have so many different backgrounds and mindsets and experiences, and so I think that is really important what you brought up.
Mhm.
And we know, like, as practitioners, people do have a lot of expectations when they come into a therapeutic or ceremony setting.
Totally.
Another
Yeah. Yeah.
Justin, he mentioned, like, people come in with their, like, lists for Santa, like their Christmas lists or
Yeah.
their wedding registry, like, I want to get all of this out of this, and it's like, okay, like,
Good luck.
like,
Yeah, for sure. And, I think with any new, again, like these are not new technologies.
shit,
These
but
are
yeah,
not new practices. But, with any sort of like new mainstream-able, I don't know, medicine,
pop
let's
culture, pop,
just say,
yeah,
yeah, like there's often this over promising, under delivering, or this excitement or fervor that like this is going to be the thing that'll change everything. um and I think we're seeing it with myriad substances right now. Like, I'm thinking of like Ozempic, for example, and a lot of people putting so many eggs in the basket of this thing healing and curing everything. And we'll see when it comes out in the wash what happens here. But I think that the fervor, the excitement, the desire to to take a pill and have everything be better, um, is so real and like very relatable and human. And
very
I
human, yeah,
totally, like, I
yeah.
really, really get it. And then, you're 3.5 hours into a psilocybin journey and you're like, oh my fucking God. So yeah, it's funny to me sometimes, like, I think that sometimes the sex feels like the more taboo of the two topics at the moment with sex and psychedelics. But in fact, I think, for the most part, and without taking too long of strokes, like I when you enter into a sexual experience, again, I get not all the time, but for the most part, you can say stop and exit that experience, or you can blink your safe word or whatever. But when you're engaging in a psychedelic experience, you're riding that journey. You are on that train. So yeah.
It's a really good point. Yeah, you're there till they whatever substance you're on wants to stop the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. You want to talk more about your magazine?
Yeah. So Sex and Psychedelics magazine, we have the first three issues. The first one is kind of a retrospective. It is like an overview of what was happening in the world of sex and psychedelics. It's an arts, an essay, and a little bit of research based magazine. Um, it's a print only magazine at the moment, although we are also starting a Substack, have started working on a subscription model. And for me, the besides the topics, the idea of having like a physical magazine was really important to me, because I'm coming from like a dance and performing arts background. And I realized, like, I love my art, but you can't just wrap it up and give it to someone. And I loved the idea of having a medium that was that had like an artifact, that had a physical thing that I could, hand to people and show off and pass around and, take home with you. So the physical magazine was a very intentional aspect of that. And the second issue is on, so for the following issues, we took on a theme. We are a small team of queer, femme, mostly psychedelic and therapeutic practitioners in the Bay Area and in Portland. And also our designer who has worked with us, who's in Canada. And the second issue is on shadow tending, we call it shadow, BDSM and kink, trauma healing, consent violations. And the third issue is on ecosexuality. And ecosexuality is a term that we borrow from Annie Sprinkle and Beth Stevens, who are our ecosexual gods. They're activists in the Bay Area and have been also deep inspirations for this magazine. Annie wrote a piece for Maps in 2004, I believe, about her sexual experiences on different substances. And we reprinted that. Annie is a longtime collaborator of mine and friend, and we reprinted that article in the first issue and then got to print some of their incredibly sexy photos and the Ecosex Manifesto and vows for marrying the earth in the third issue. And the fourth issue, which we're working on right now, is on the body, which I mentioned, and the body as the sort of channeling portal for psychedelic experiences, for consciousness, for life. And in addition, we're like expanding from bodies to bodies of knowledge, bodies of water, what it means to have a body, whose bodies are invited into what spaces, Black bodies, trans bodies, as much as we can about this kind of like physical soma that we live in and experience life through.
Well, that's beautiful. The 3 issues I got to see in person, and they're such a beautiful visual storytelling narrative aspect to it. And I really appreciate that because, different traditions also, psychedelics in some traditions are about the stories and the art and and the plants in your magazine brought so much visual storytelling and all of those aspects into it. So it's really beautiful. It's entertaining, it's beautiful. And then there's kind of like, there's been some journeys where people can do like, art therapy after or, experience like the artistry and the creativity that comes after a journey and kind of as an integration process. And I felt like the magazine really spoke to that too, as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, our creative director, Olivia Clear, is a art integration therapist. And so, she definitely has art directed the magazine in that style. And I like to make the joke sometimes, like people would joke about Playboy, like, oh yeah, we're here for the articles. But actually, like, as I understand, the articles in Playboy were pretty good and written by pretty famous writers. Similarly, we have incredibly high quality curated written work. And so the art and the articles really play well together. And actually, I feel like at each issue we're like, this isn't sexy. Like, such a
Push it more.
Exactly. It's like such an erotic experience, and yet like we're like, this is not. We were like, actually, this magazine is totally safe for work. Like,
Ah.
there's not even like a nude body in it. There's some nipples, but like basically not. That was the first issue
Like when
that
I
we.
opened it, I was like, "What is this going to be?" And I was like, "Oh, this is just gorgeous, like art. Like this is very safe art."
It's really interesting. Like it wasn't on purpose. It was just like we were on to like what we were to, and got incredible artists that we've collaborated with. There's 30 written artists and 30 visual artists in each issue. And so we're just collecting like, the collaborators across the globe who are making such cool, beautiful, sensual art on these topics. And yeah, sometimes it's not pornographic in the way that you think it might be. And we're like, more pornographic.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting how our brain like actually like goes there first, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other ways, like sensuality as a whole, um visual stimulation as a whole without it being
Mm-hmm.
pornographic, like these things that we automatically kind of in the modern world want, like just from the industry and being bombarded with certain types of images, we kind of forget that there's a whole buffet of things to feel sensual with visually too.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And there's poetry and short form essays and interviews and tarot, and so it really like I also have said like it's meant to be like an ADHD experience.
Renaissance
Um
of ADHD.
yeah, like very ADHD or tripper friendly. You can kind of like tap in for a little while, read a little something, a four sentence haiku. And I don't know if there's any haikus in there, but there's little poetry, and then be like, whoa, amazing. Like my life has been expanded and changed. And, or you can dive in and really like lock into some of these longer form articles.
Can't wait for the.
Mhm.
I need to order the three because I got to see them in person with you, but I'm gonna order all four when your fourth one comes out for
Yeah,
sure.
we'll get them to you for sure.
I was just thinking of a nice place and I could set them on my like coffee table with some
Yeah.
crystals. I was literally thinking the other day, how am I gonna put this here?
I love that. I met somebody, I can't remember what exactly, but it was like really out of context. I met up with somebody and they brought issue 2, and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Yeah." They were like, "This was on my friend's coffee table. Like she loves this issue." And so, like it really has made its way around to some of the most best coffee tables in the world.
You didn't know it was your magazine?
Yeah. But like hadn't like
Um,
the connection had not gone through me in the slightest.
that's really cool. I mean, that really speaks to like people really enjoying it and a true artistry. They're
Yeah.
bringing it to you and you created it.
Yeah. It's great. It's definitely like, kind of become a little bit of lore, especially I think through psychedelic science. Um, but at the first, we printed in time for the 2023 um, psychedelic science conference in Denver. And someone told me again, like kind of a random connection was like, oh, this was like the best, like I don't know, swag that came from psychedelic science was your magazine. And so, we kind of, yeah, we move, we can.
I'm
And I'll
excited to
talk
see
about
that in
the
my swag bag.
party.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
having an event too. You do events as well. Yes, please tell the audience and myself about this amazing event that you're having.
Yeah. Again, with this sort of original intention of having like a physical artifact, additionally having gathering places and meetup sort of style launch parties, and sort of everything from like dialogues to conferences to just hangout times, and more. uh our intention was to bring community together, to be together around these topics in different ways. And so on June 20th, 2026, which is tomorrow, we're hosting an event in Oakland at the Alembic, or Berkeley, the Berkeley Alembic. And we have incredible, like really a really stunning list of speakers. The original thought was to have it be really light programming and just like pretty easy on the nervous system, like 3 more kind of dialogue heady chats and 3 like really intentional somatically focused oriented workshops, so you get your head and your body nourished at the same time. And then in the evening having a dance party, having like a sound bath. We had to add a little extra panel because Ismail Ali and Monica Cadena are going to speak. They're going to have a dialogue in the evening. And we were like, oh, yes, we need you to also be there and chatting. And yeah, it's going to be really, really special. The ticket link will be somewhere so that folks can come. If you can't make it, or if you are just hearing about this and it's after the event, please join our mailing list and we will let you know about other stuff. We're definitely going to do something in Denver next year at Psychedelic Science. And yeah, we try to do stuff. We've done a couple of things in New York, a few things in Denver, a few things in Portland. We'll bring something to LA.
You should come to
Berlin,
Seattle. You
London,
should come.
Paris. Where are you?
I'm in Seattle.
Seattle.
I'm in Seattle.
I mean, because we have so many collaborators that are all across the world. And I have lived in many different places also. And all of us who are collaborators in the mag have gotten to live across the country and across countries. We have community in all sorts of places like Seattle. And so we love to come and bring, events wherever.
Events like this can also be like deeply good for people that are, maybe they're doing microdose journey, or maybe they've had ceremony. This is a form of integration to be in community
100%.
this way. Yeah, it's so important.
Yeah, we're so often hearing people be like, oh, thank you. Like, I have these stories I haven't been able to tell anyone, or, it's so nice to like meet up with a group of people who kind of know what you're talking about.
For sure. Okay, Sura. So the podcast is named Ritual and Remedy, and I'm going to ask you, what are your daily rituals, things you can't live without, and what are your remedies?
I like this question. I was just thinking the other day, I feel like I have a lot of rituals, and I've had a lot of rituals over my lifespan, but they never felt consistent. It always felt sort of like, oh, I did this for a while and now I'm doing this. And I realized that I have like a pretty consistent like nighttime ritual for the first time. And that's feeling really good. It's very boring, so I'm not gonna walk you through it, but I think that the idea of ritualizing, consecrating, um, so helpful to sort of closing the doors in the house, proverbially, but also literally, and just kind of like coming down back into the body, coming off this high of being in the day, whatever that's meant. I am ritualizing, more formally these kind of seasonal journeys. And along with that, orienting those seasonal journeys to like connecting with groups of people and nature, as well as with medicines. And both, medicines of ingestion, and also the medicines of the earth and the medicines of different kinds of foods. And just like the medicine of community. I've been joking with my therapist a lot that I have like sort of 2 modes, and one is like my sort of licensed therapist, and my home in San Francisco and my beloveds here, and this kind of like even my nighttime ritual, like having this kind of like adulting life. And then the other mode is like, you know, naked running through the woods with my witchy femmes. And I love that I can play in these two worlds right now. And I feel like the deeper my relationship with one gets, the deeper my relationship with the other can get. I spent a lot of years in the naked running through the woods. And, you know, I'm kind of newer to the consistency and home life. And it's really wonderful to get to balance these things right now. Although also sometimes it feels like banging my head against a wall. I think everyone can agree. Adulting sucks. And remedies, I love, like, I think that all of these are remedies, but I really like this rituals and remedies, like as a playful dialectic. And I love my herbalist friends so much. Like, I have such incredibly beautiful witchy herbalist friends who are always giving me tinctures and this thing and that thing and smoke this and taste that. And I sometimes like other people to be able to do all the things so that I can just come and show up and enjoy. And you know, then I'll do all the things over here and then you can come and show up and enjoy. So yeah. I had a like dialogue with someone for a long time and it became kind of a joke in my relationship, but I about rose medicine and about like the like incredibly potent, powerful um um I don't know, relationship that I have with rose as a everything. And I'm looking here at like our rose bush and just thinking about like how lucky we are to have roses and other flowers and nature, and all of this feels like delicious, delectable remedies.
Wow, I love that. That's amazing. So tell us one more time where our listeners can connect with you and find your work and order your magazine.
Yeah, so sexandpsychedelics.com is our website, and that has you can access MagCloud from there, which has drop shipping of our magazines, and you can reach out to us, join our mailing list, learn about events. We're on Instagram also at sex.psychs, sex.psychs. And for my therapy work for the other side, where I'm buttoned up, therapy with Sura .com. And I promise I'm not a super buttoned up therapist. I see couples and I work as an intimacy coach also. And my email is, or my Instagram is at therapy with Sura. And yeah, you can find out more about me. I'd love to connect. I would love to hear from you, and drop me a line if you want to work together or collaborate, or just let me know that you're out there.
Sure, thank you so much for taking the time and being with us today. I feel like we've just hit the tip of the iceberg and like
Mm,
there's so many other juicy things I want to ask you.
mhm,
So please
mhm.
come back. I know we'll probably see each other in lots of different things and work together in the
Yes.
future, but I just want to say thank you. And yeah, it's such a great conversation. Such important work you're doing. And I think like so many people are waking up right now. So these are amazing conversations to have around intimacy and self-care, just, all the things that are coming up right now as we become,
Totally.
you know, as we're just, changing as humanity's changing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the invitation and for having these conversations. And I'm so excited to know you and future collaborations. And yeah. And thanks everyone for listening.
Absolutely. As we close today's conversation, I'm reminded that healing isn't always about fixing what's broken. Today's discussion of Sure invited us into a deeper exploration of intimacy, not only with our partners, but with ourselves, our bodies, our desires, our plants, and our capacity for connection. Whether your journey includes relationships, personal growth, or psychedelic exploration, or simply learning to trust yourself more, I hope this episode reminds you that transformation begins with awareness. And to our listeners, thank you for spending this time with us. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone and continue the conversation. Until next time, remember, release what no longer serves you, restore what nourishes you, and radiate who you truly are. I'm Dr. Janelle, and this is Ritual and Remedy. Be well.
Ritual and Remedy RX, where healing becomes ceremony. Earth below, sky above, medicine rising through my blood, where science meets spirit and healing becomes real. Body awaken, spirit alive, the medicine lives inside. Ritual and remedy inside. Ritual and Remedy RX. This is a space for transformation, for truth, for embodied wisdom. Rituals